Hi all, so this is just a little test scenario I've created. So it's just sort of to represent the plains of Germany. The Russians or the Soviet Union are coming in from this side. So I've got like a forest area here with BMP 1 there, and there, fully loaded with troops. T-72, 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 two more BMP ones, two T-72s, and some Heinz with troops on board. I've come up with the idea, and I've sort of scribbled some notes down for off the board artillery. So I just put them there to remind me that the Soviet Union each turn has two artillery that they can fire. Still 12 and range, and that would be counted from the back line. There's only 9 grid squares anyway, so it can hit pretty much anywhere on the board. And it will ignore, well, it won't ignore, but it'd be as if any target it's firing at, it'll be as if it's in a square that allows it to fire, if that makes sense. And then on this side is the Americans. So the Americans get 3 artillery shots per turn, and that's because they're heavily outnumbered. They got mechanized infantry in M113, a M109, I think, the anti-air, or was it M163? I can't remember, but it's the anti-air, mechanized infantry, anti-tank, I think that's the M163, M1, 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 anti-tank, anti-air, and some more mechanized infantry. So these are fields. I'm going to have them act similarly to forests or trees, so they give cover when you're in them. And if you're in here and an enemy's there, then they're going to have it that they can't get a decent line of sight on you. Buildings, or a town, I guess, is that what that represents, or a village. The big cluster, I'd say, is probably a town, and then another little town, a little village or hamlet. This is just scrubland, which provides cover as well. But you have to follow the rules for entering a forest or hard going or whatever, or rough terrain, whatever you want to call it. Same with this. This would be impassable, and these will be hills, so they follow the hill rules. And then over here we got some more fields that the T-72s are hiding in, a little hamlet or village, whatever you want it to be, another hill, and some scrubland. So I'll come back after the first turn. Actually, I forgot to mention what the scenario is, or what I'm doing. So basically, the Russians get first turn. So this is as if the day of the war has started. The Soviets have moved up in position. Say this is within East Germany or something, and this side is West Germany. The Americans or NATO know something's happening, so they moved into position, but they're still rushing, reinforcements into position, and the Americans are, loading transports up in the US to, come across the Atlantic to help reinforce NATO positions. And this is the sort of the tip of the spear for the Russians as they crash across the border into hasty defense. So Russians go first. Artillery strikes in this are simultaneous, but I decided for the first turn the Americans don't get any because it's a surprise attack. I'll come back after the first turn. Right, so Russians have done their move. So for this scenario, I decided to, if I wander over here, use from the first rulebook, Portable Wargaming, in the solo section, where he mentions using DBA's pip system. So I've decided to use that for solo play. But for the first turn, I decided that the Russians can move everything as a part of their surprise attack, and then from that turn onwards it will be d6 minus 1, the lowest number being 1. And the Americans for their first turn will be d6 minus 1 because they're surprised, and then d6 plus 1 from that point on. I have no idea if any of this will be balanced, but it's just a test to see how it plays out. But anyway, so the Hinds shot forward from over there to there to support these two T-72s and BMP pushing forward in the centre. If I move out of the light. This Hind fell in behind these T-72s, conscious that they don't know what kind of air defence the Americans have managed to push forward. This mechanised infantry unit took one hit, another hit and it will be destroyed. It was a lucky hit because it was firing into a built-up area, but they managed to get a hit. And then any other fire that happened was ineffective. So now it is the Americans' retaliation. Although they weren't able to use their artillery in the artillery phase, they can fire in their normal phase. So I'll allow that to happen. So the commanders have got word back to a forward operating base or something to say, the balloon's gone up, the Russians, the Soviet Union have arrived, and so they hastily got artillery. I guess for the sake of story, we'll say that they've got 2 artillery packages they can fire in at the moment as they hastily get the rest in position. So I'll move the Americans now. Well, I'll roll on camera their pips minus 1. 1, not very good. So they can either opt to fire an artillery piece or move 1 single unit, and then next turn I'll dice to see which side gets initiative. So you could have an American turn straight away. Like I say, this isn't going to be balanced, and I'll tweak the kind of scenario or narrative rules I'm making up for future games, but this is just to test out some Cold War rules I've been playing with for the portable system to see what they're like. So we'll give the very quick American turn, and then we'll dice off to see who goes next after the next artillery phase. Right, so with the one command, I decided that the anti-air unit would fire with its Vulcan cannon at the Hind, and missed. So we will roll for initiative. Green die for the Soviets, white for the Americans. Double 6, try again. So the Soviets have it. So I'll do, I'll put that there to remind me. So I'll do the artillery phase for both sides and come back and say what the results were. And then do roll for Russian pips minus 1. Right, artillery phase is over. No one scored a hit. The Russians attempted to attack him, and I decided that they'd have a general idea of where he was because he fired at the Hind. So they fired a barrage in his general direction, which was speculative, and it missed. And the Americans fired at him. Alright, I've put white little discs under them to indicate that they're pinned, which is what happens when they take fire or a hit. So he took fire, and fell back. I haven't fully read the air unit rules, and helicopters aren't in them anyway, but normally transports are the only unit that can share a grid with another unit, which is infantry. But I decided a flying unit can share a grid with any unit because it's flying, and otherwise it seemed a bit silly that he would have had to have taken a hit instead of being able to fall back, because there was nowhere for him to fall back because of the helicopter. And he was like, well, the helicopter's flying, so why would it get in its way? So I did that instead. I let it fall back and become pinned. So now the Russians can roll for their pips -1. So they get to activate 3 units. So I'll do that, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so that was the Russians' turn. So the Hind pushed forward. So under the rules I'm tinkering with, I decided that air assaults. So normally transports have to stay still for a turn to unload or load, where I decided that they can deploy their troops, and their troops can launch a close assault straight away, or fire. I may change that just to close assault. At the moment I'm following normal rules for the other transports. So they have to stay still for the entire turn, but I feel like in the modern age that maybe I should alter it so that vehicles at the very least can move and drop off their troops straight away. Maybe not close assault on the turn they're deployed. Maybe that should just be left for, Hinds, Black Hawks, Chinooks or whatever. The air units, basically, they can deploy their units and close assault straight away, and then maybe BMPs, M133s and FE432s can move the allocation and then drop. Or maybe follow the shooting rules where you move 1 less grid if you're going to fire that turn, so the transport moves 1 less grid and then can drop their troops off, but they can't attack that turn. I mean, that seems probably fairer. Yeah, I think I might write that into my rules the more I think about it, because I feel like that American unit there got blown to crap, and they would have still got blown to crap, because I would have had to have used an entire turn just to deploy those troops. But they got close to... They already took a hit, got close assaulted, took another hit. Then I rolled a d6. So in my rules I decided if a transport's blown up, roll a d6, and on a 1 or a 6, then the soldiers inside are killed. Any other number, then they're fine, and they fell back into the scrub after these guys stormed the town. I decided to follow the 4-back rules because that made sense, because they're all just had their ride blown up under them, so they're in disarray. So they've fallen back. I counted that as close assault. The movement of the helicopter and the close assault. Sorry, just dropped my phone. As 2 pips, and then the final pip was this T-72 moving into position to sort of support that town now that it's been taken, or village, or hamlet, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, that was the Russian turn. So I'll roll a d6 for the Americans. So this is d6 +1 for their pips. So they get to activate 4 units. So we'll see what the Americans will do. Right, so the Americans deployed their infantry into this village. The anti-tank shimmied across into that part of that town, and then the anti-air fired into this Hind. Because it's a Vulcan cannon, originally I had it as just one die, and then I thought it's a torrent of fire, so it should be like the machine gun rules, really. So I'm gonna change it so that the anti-air is 3d6, and then the same with that one against there, and it scored 1 hit. Which seems fair because I've got these down as 4 hits to take them down because they're quite heavily armoured helicopters, and I thought, well, they'll never get taken out with anti-air. It'll take like 4 consecutive turns of hitting them, where in reality I expect, a Hind, regardless of how well armoured they are, if it's in the wrong position or an anti-air unit comes up on it with, a Gatling gun, basically, it'll probably still do a lot of damage to it, if not destroy it. So that's what I'm going to do. I feel like I should add a rule, because it says machine guns, and I pretty much said that most, like, the M133 has a machine gun, the M113 and the BMPs have access to machine guns, can fire at air units as well, so maybe I should give it a -1 for normal machine gun fire at air units, maybe. Or maybe I should adjust it so when a machine gun is firing at infantry, it can fire 3 dice, but against an air unit it's just 1 dice, just to offset the fact that I'm letting anti-air units use 3 dice. I don't know, it's just a test to try and get a game that feels, Cold War-y, but at the same time brutal, with all this new technology, missiles flying around, armor-piercing rounds and all sorts. That stuff should be getting torn up and destroyed. But anyway, that was the Americans' response. So we'll roll a dice to see how many pips the Russians get. So this -1. So the Russian chain of command, now that it's I don't know why I said command that way, but it's starting to falter now that American firepower is coming online. So we'll move that 1 unit, and then I'll be right back. So that 1 pip, they threw this Hind forward and dropped its company of troops, who close assaulted the Americans that had deployed in defensive positions in this little village, and both sides failed to inflict any damage on each other. And I've also had another thought, literally just a second, that maybe I should write in the Hind little rules that if they got movement allowance left over after dropping troops off, that they're allowed to reuse them. So I think, I can't remember what I put them down as, 8 movement or something. So if they move 4, drop their troops off, close assault, and then they can then move 4 away or something. Maybe. Because it now feels like in the artillery phase, anti-aircraft guns can fire in the artillery phase, and it feels like he could potentially just get ripped to pieces now. Which may be fair, I don't know. Food for thought. I don't know if anyone watching this has any ideas on that, but it's definitely something to think about. So I'll roll to see what the Americans' pips are. +1, that's 6. Ooh, this is going to be a big turn for the Americans. So I'll be back after this turn. I may make this the last turn I record, mainly only because this is a practice game, and I'm coming up with so many ideas, and I feel like I should start jotting them down before I forget. But I'll write more ideas down in rules, and then I'll do another battle report. And if anyone watching this has any, knows the system, and has any ideas of, what I could do to make it, more in keeping with the Cold War / modern tech, I guess, by all means comment, and I'll take any ideas on board. But yeah, I'll do the Americans' turn now. come back and give you an overview, and then I'll probably call it. I had an interruption then, and I literally can't remember whose turn it was, or I think I've missed an artillery phase. I know I rolled for American pips, but I can't remember if it was the Americans' turn, or I should have gone into the artillery phase and then rolled to see who had initiative, and then done their turn. But I remember rolling for the Americans, so I thought I'll play the Americans out anyway. I mean, it may well be wrong, but both hinds were taken out, so my 3 dice, I don't know if that may have been too powerful now, or maybe I just played them too aggressively and should have concentrated on taking them out, or maybe I should lower their range. I don't know, I'll ponder. But yeah, both hinds were taken out. The Americans pushed forward with their M1s in the centre, laying fire down on this guy, and as you can see, he got pinned and took 2 damage. He was able to fire on him, but did nothing. He came out and fired on him. I've given them range 2, which is why he came out to get in range. But then I'm wondering, is range 2 too close? And they'd have further to fire? I'm pretty sure they're wire-guided missiles, and I sort of thought that to use them, you've got to surely be quite close. So maybe that is right, and that's just a bad play, being right out in the open. I should have positioned them where they could, use fields as cover or something to ambush the tanks. So, but he might get punished if the game was to continue. And yeah, that's it, I think. I mean, I really enjoyed it. I think I need to tinker with rules. I think the transport rules need to be tinkered with. I just don't like the idea of the any transport moving, having to then wait till the next turn before being able to put troops out. Those troops can't do anything until the turn after that, before they can start firing, at which point, they could get ripped to ribbons on a I feel like on a modern battlefield, that transport should be able to zip into position and those troops bail, instantly taking up position. Maybe not being able to fire that turn, but being, in a position where they can fire. And I was also thinking, should I strip all transports of machine guns? But then I feel like in a modern battlefield, they would be. I mean, I've put in the rules that you can't, if you've deployed infantry, then you can't use, and the transport's in the same square, you can't use the machine gun instead of the troops. You've got to use the infantry to stop people from just dumping the troops out and then using the transport to lay down 3 dice worth of fire until it gets blown up, and then having the infantry to hold the square. Or maybe I should just remove that rule and just say if the transport is in the same square as them, then its firepower is factored into what the infantry are doing, maybe. A lot of food for thought. I'll definitely scribble some notes down for improvements. I mean, it's definitely going in the right direction. And I definitely feel like there's the potential to make a very enjoyable sort of Cold War style game based on this grid system. So yeah, thanks for watching. Sorry about the rambly nature. I definitely appreciate other people's opinions and ideas of how to give this game more of a Cold War feel, or more of a modern tech kind of feel, or how to add air jets into it as well as attack helicopters. But yeah, I'll stop rambling now, and I'll post another video hopefully soon showcasing whatever improvements or extra rules I decide. I feel like to get the Cold War right, you need to add that chrome in. I know in the rule book, in the first book he talks about, I think it's in the first book, he talks about stripping the chrome away, and then got to a point where he stripped too much away and then had to add it back in. But yeah, I definitely think the chrome is what will give this the Cold War feel that I'm looking for. But I think this is definitely a step in the right direction, and I enjoyed these couple of turns. I can definitely see the potential. But anyway, I'm rambling again, so thanks for watching.